In this tutorial, we'll cover adding text strings to your modded resources. So first, we're just going to open up our trait here, look at the screen name, and if you open the square icon, you'll see that it just brings you an empty dialog, and so it's not very user-friendly. You can't really pick from strings here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to enable the display of base game strings inside of this dialog. So I'll first close Resource Editor. Now I'm back to Program Files, Age of Wonders 4. Let's go to the Language folder, go to EN for English, and there's an English language file here. I'm just gonna copy it, Control C and then Control V, and I'm just gonna rename it to squiggly dev. So it's gonna be a dev file that gets picked up by the resource editor. So now that that's renamed, let's go back into the resource editor. Let's reload in our custom RPK. And then we'll see that we can now see the base game strings in the list of strings here. So you can do this to reuse existing strings if you don't want to define your own strings. But for us, we want to define our own string that says inner spirit, and then we'll also want to update the lore text as well, so the description, and we want to update the bio as well as the effect descriptions as well. And I believe that there's other strings defined elsewhere. We'll start by following the modding guide on how to add custom strings. The first thing that we want to do is create a pot template file. But the first thing you want to do is just to set up your language directory. So again, you want to set it up the same way that the base game is set up as well. So if I go to the base game directory, Age of Wonders 4, language, they have an EN folder for English and the other languages, and then inside here they have a name text file and then the language file in here. So we want to copy that structure. At this time, it's not possible to support multiple languages inside of one mod. So that's not supported. So all you'll do is you'll just create one language folder for your one language. Let's go back to our mod folder, more traits, go inside language. Let's create a new folder, EN. All right, and then in here you want to create a new text document, name. And then inside here, you just type in English, and that's all. I don't know if this is really used, but I'm just copying how the base game is set up, where it has just a name text document with English inside of it. Let's go back to our mod folder, English. So we have the name. Now what we want to do is create this template file called modname.pot. Again, new text document, more traits.pot. Now this doesn't really work because it's still a text document. What you want to do is show file extensions in Windows. And you can see that it's .pot.txt. So now that we show the file name extensions, we can just remove the .txt, and now it's a pot file. Let's open this up and let's follow the template here. So how you define strings is you just define the key here, and you define it in a format like your mod name, more traits, and then you use an @ to separate things, and then you can just do inner spirit @ name. And then that's how you would define all your strings. So again, I need a bio line, lore and bio, and a description. And I think that's all we need for strings. With our string keys defined in our POT file, now we open POEdit. And we'll create a new translation file from our template. So I'll go to my mod language folder, select the .pot file, open that. It's going to ask for the translation language. Just click OK for English. And now we see our interface for defining the actual string values for each of these string keys. So for example, inner spirit. I'll just put some placeholder text here. I'll hit Control S to save, and it's going to ask where to save it. So make sure that you're in your mod language folder and just call it the same thing, more traits. If we go back to our mod, created the .po file, the translation file, and then the compiled translation. Now for your RPK to pick up your custom string, you go back to resource editor, go to content, language, add. Now you add your compiled language file. So go back to your mod folder, more traits.mo, open that, okay. It's going to reload. Now when you open the string selector, you should be able to search for your string. And there it is. You can see all the strings are defined here. So let's hit OK, Control S, and then see it appear in game. In game, we can see that our new inner spirit text is now showing on our new trait, but we still have to update the strings for the effects and the other tooltip texts. Our next step is to fill out the rest of the strings. One trick you can do is to just copy and see how the base game strings are defined. So for the lore text, we can see it's defined like here. Unfortunately, there's no easy way to just copy and paste this. If I right click, it doesn't give me any options to do that. And so what I did was I made my own copy of the base game language files. So I used a Python script to convert the en.mo compiled translation file, and I converted it to a .po translation file that I can open up in POEdit. Unfortunately, this file can't be shared. I think it might be against terms or something like that, but there's a Python script that you can use to convert the .mo file to a .po file, and I'll add a link to that to the description. Let's open up POEdit and let's open up our compiled .po file. So here it's a much easier way to see how all the base game strings are defined. And you can also see how things are formatted as well. Let's look to see how the inner fire trait strings are defined. So we found the name, we found the lore. So we can just copy this over into our .po file, lore. Notice that it has a hyperlink here. So it's going to generate that fire damage hyperlink and icon. I'll just change this one to spirit. And we know this works because it's also defined in the same way in the base game as well. So if you just wanted to confirm what the right syntax is. We can fill out the bio and the description next. So with the bio, let's go back to our resource editor. Bio, let's see. Their boiling blood scorches. Okay, we'll make up our own. Made up my own bio description here. Their Holy Spirit smites their enemies. And then the description. Let's see. The description was defined here for the property group. And the description is defined here, but it doesn't look readable. It's got a hyperlink here, and it's using loc dot, and then the string key for another string in here. So this format is how you refer to other base game strings. You just start with loc dot, and then you put in the key for the other string. So let's see how this one is defined. Description 01, Control F. All right, so it's just showing the individual effects and what they do. Going back into our resource editor, looks like it's being used in the effect descriptions. Yep, it's using the individual effect descriptions in here. But if we go back to our .po file, we didn't define those as keys. So let's go back into our .pot file and define them. I've added 2 new entries for the descriptions. I'll hit save. Let's go back to PO edit and let's go to translation, update from POT file. Let's save our changes. Select the .pot file that we just updated, and now we'll see new entries for the descriptions that we just added. Looking at how this description is defined in the base game, it's referring to a value defined in our resources for the fire resistance reduction, and then it shows a hyperlink for the fire resistance. Let's copy this over to our modded language file. Let's change the hyperlink to spirit resistance. And now let's see how this one is defined here. Let's go back to our resource editor. Let's go to the property group. And we can kind of see here inner fire resistance here in the tags table. So quick thing, you want to make sure that you have a data store tag in order to see the tags. Otherwise, if you try to refer to tags, it's not going to show up unless you have a data store tag on the actual parent that you want to show the tag values for. I'll just rename this one to inner spirit. Now this is pulling from its children. So if I go to inner spirit, spirit resistance, I'll rename this data store tag to spirit. You can see that it has these tags that I can copy into the descriptions. If I go back to the property group, it's been updated to inner spirit resistance with all the different values here. So we want the spirit reduction. Just click here to copy it to clipboard. Go back to our PO file, replace this with our new spirit tag. And let's do the same thing for our second description. Let's paste in the base game value. Again, we'll need to update the tag here and the hyperlink. So let's see, this is the melee attacker sustained damage. The damage is defined here. Let's change the base data store tag. Now it shows the right one. We can copy this, and we can also copy it from the parent as well. Go back here. Let's save it. Now we want to refer to these two new strings that we added inside of our resource editor. I'll just copy this. These are defined in the effect descriptions. Go to add. Now it doesn't appear here, so you can still continue and just use the key as is. It's going to work. I'll delete the old one. But if you want to see the actual values, you'll have to just close the RPK and reopen it whenever you add new strings or update the string values. Go back to the body trait, effect descriptions. Yep, we can see our new spirit resistance is now showing. So let's add the second description. Description 2, melee attackers sustain spirit damage. So let's update the lore. Lore traits, lore. Spirit. And then the bio description. You can also search for what it is. So Holy Spirit smites. We've already updated the effect descriptions. Go to the property group. Let's update the name. The description. Still need to update the description, so I'll just copy the base game description, paste it in here. Again, it's using the format where it's referring to other strings, so let's do the same here. Let's copy our string key, update this one, description 02, save that. I've updated all of the strings to use our new modded strings for all these resources. So let's see how everything appears in game. All right, let's open this up. Okay, we can see inner spirit, and we can see that the tooltips have been updated to use the spirit damage, but it's still missing the actual value here for spirit resistance. So let's take a look. In the resource editor, let's go to the effect descriptions. We're trying to refer to the defined +3 in the description here, but it's not showing up in game. So I think the reason for this is this one doesn't have a data tag table like the property group does. And so when this resource is trying to refer to this value here, it doesn't find it, and so it's empty. So if you see it here, then it's good, but if you don't see the table here, then it won't be defined. So in the cases where it's empty, and we don't have access to the data tag table, we'll have to go in here, double click, and we can just hard code in a value here. So the key for the reduction amount is not available. We'll just hard code it in to 3. Okay, and now we can see it's updated here. Let's save and reload the game. All right, in game, we can see inner spirit. Yes, and now we can see that the +3 is now properly showing. And to verify the bio string, you can see it in the faction creator, in the faction biography. So here it appears. In summary, we covered how to see base game strings in the resource editor. We covered how you set up your string files, how to use PO edit, how to add your strings to your custom RPK, how you work with hyperlinks and references or tags, and unfortunately how to hard code in values. And as a bonus, if you need a reference for some of the hyperlinks, You can generate a hyperlink dump similar to this one, where it shows you all the potential hyperlinks that you could use. And to do that, you just go into the game, use the cheat console, and use the dump hyperlinks cheat. And then what it'll do is it'll just generate a hyperlink dump text file into your app data roaming Age of Wonders 4 directory. In the next video, we'll cover how to add custom icons.